As Ren said at the top, we're on a mission now to start ranking the companies with the best moats, and we want your help.
Yes, we want to build the comprehensive list of companies with great moats.
What's a moat?
So a moat is a sustainable competitive advantage. Now, break that down. A competitive advantage allows a company to have above average pricings, to have super normal profitability, basically to make more than its competitors when it's doing the same thing. And the sustainable aspect of that is that competitive advantage can't be eroded by competition. And so you put that together, and what it means is that companies with these sustainable competitive advantages will make more profit than their competitors and will continue to make that profit into the future. And as an investor, that is the sweet spot, because it means that company will either be able to pay you more dividends, it'll be able to reinvest and grow in different ways, be able to buy other companies and expand inorganically if it wants to do that. But honestly, like if you look at what Warren Buffett has built his $100 billion fortune on, it's all about finding those companies with sustainable competitive advantages. From Amex to Coke to more recently Apple, the diamonds that you're looking for as investors. And we want to compile a list because there's a heap of companies out there, but we want to find the best.
So there's a framework, Hamilton Helmer's 7 Powers framework, which is a great place to sort of, I guess, define some characteristics that make up a moat, or that you could classify as an economic moat. Power number 1, scale economy. So this is where it's scales of economy. It's where economies of scale, where businesses, as volume goes up, more products they create, the cheaper and cheaper it becomes for them to produce.
Classic example of this would be like a Walmart. Yeah. Like the scale that they operate on means that they can charge a lower price to the consumer than smaller grocery stores or department stores. And that keeps customers coming back because Walmart's scale means they have the lowest prices, means they keep the customers.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Power number 2 is network economies. This is where more value is realized by those using the product as more people come on and use the same product.
Classic example, Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook is not a very valuable service if only Bryce and I are on it. But as soon as 3 billion people are on Facebook, it's a true social network, and that's incredibly hard to disrupt because a new social network needs to recreate that network effect, which is hard to do.
Number 3 is what's called counter positioning. Now, this is where a business comes along, creates a business model that competitors don't want to mimic or can't because they'll actually cannibalize their own existing business.
Classic example of this is Tesla. So Tesla came and they introduced electric vehicles, and a lot of the legacy car makers couldn't go hard into electric vehicles because it would cannibalize their existing sales of internal combustion engines, but it would also piss off their dealer networks and stuff like that. So they just couldn't compete with Tesla, and Tesla got this massive advantage as a result.
Power number 4 is switching costs, essentially where it's too much of an expense or a loss in value if your customers have to go elsewhere.
Classic example of this used to be like phone contracts. When it was like if you signed up for a 24-month plan and you had to leave, you'd have to pay the full amount of the contract out. Does that still exist?
Look, I don't know. I think so. So, especially if you have a phone. I could think of one for our business at the moment, which is Xero. It's not a loss. It's not a loss in dollar value, but it's a loss in just the annoyance of having to change to another accounting software, re-import all the data, we are entrenched in Xero.
Yeah. And so if Xero want to raise their prices, they can.
Yeah.
Because we're not going anywhere.
We're not going anywhere.
Don't do it, Xero.
Don't do it. Power number 5, branding. This is pretty straightforward. There's a perceived value to the brand and they can charge higher prices for it. It's pretty straightforward.
Classic ones, Nike, Apple, they just have really strong brands which allow them to charge more than their competitors for similar products.
Power number 6 is a cornered resource. Essentially, a business has first access to a key resource.
An example of this might be Occidental Petroleum, a company that Buffett has been buying a lot of recently. It has really prime land in the Permian Basin, which is like quite a productive oil field in the southwest of the US. And so, they've got access to this resource that none of their competitors can then access. So they can be like a low-cost producer.
There you go. Didn't know that.
There you go.
And then power number 7 is what's called process power. It's where a business whose organisation or activity set enables lower costs or superior products that can only be matched by an extended commitment. I think this is just like saying there's huge complexity to this, and it's going to be really hard to crack into.
I mean, for me, the classic example here is Toyota. So Toyota in the 1980s just emerged on the scene with their manufacturing process that none of the European or American car companies could match. And it just meant that they were more efficient, that they were producing cars at a lower cost. It meant that they not took over the world, but they became massive. They're the biggest car maker in the world, I'm pretty sure now, or right up there. And for the other car makers around the world to catch up, it took like massive reorganization, massive negotiations with key stakeholders, retooling plants, and it took a long time for them to catch up. That process advantage that they had was a real sustainable competitive advantage.
I remember that in business studies. Absolute classic case study. All right, Ren, so to close out, we've got a couple of stocks here to kick off our quest to build the best list we can of stocks with great moats. Now, you've got a few here, so do you want to kick off?
Yeah, I want to start with my stock of the year from last year, Axon Enterprise. The more I think about this company, the more I'm just like, God, it's a great moat. So Axon emerged as a company that was trying to make non-lethal options for police, and so they introduced the taser. But that's not what I'm thinking about here. It's their tech platform that they've built, evidence.com. And so essentially a lot of the police body cams in America and Australia and around the world automatically upload. So they're Axon and they automatically upload to Axon's tech platform. But now also all of these other stakeholders in the criminal justice system, prosecutors, but also like victims of crime or, venues where crimes happened, they are all uploading their evidence to evidence.com, Axon's platform. Like if your shop gets robbed, you're uploading CCTV footage to this platform. And so this platform then has such like a rich amount of evidence and the ability to then like start up with a new platform and like have to, similar to your Xero example, like that switching cost is just incredibly high. But at the same time, the network effect of having all these different stakeholders on the platform, it becomes so valuable and it becomes so hard to switch. So that's a moat that I think is pretty impressive.
So that was power number 2, network economies, and power number 4, switching costs. So that's Axon. What else?
I want to come to Australia. This is one that I think is hard to beat. Cochlear.
Yep.
So the Cochlear implant, I think, is just an incredible moat because the Cochlear implant is in two parts. There's a surgical implant under the skin, and then an external sound processor. And once you have the surgical implant, you're essentially locked into a cycle of upgrades of the sound processor. I was doing some research, and in the US, insurance companies and Medicare authorize a replacement sound processor around every 5 years, and you're not switching to another.
No, you're not constantly getting implants.
You're not. Once you're in, you're locked into that upgrade cycle really for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
that's a pretty defensible mode.
Definitely. What else?
Okay, one from my Coles days that I always would think about. Brambles, the company that owns Shep pallets.
Yeah.
So the network effect on Shep pallets is wild. So every trucking company, every manufacturing facility, every warehousing facility, and then all the retailers as well, they all have Shep accounts. And so it means if you're delivering a pallet through a supply chain, you can hand off the pallets to different parts of the supply chain and track them. and it means no one's losing out
Yeah.
because it's like everyone's on this SHEP network. There is a competitor, Loscam. They're also quite big, and everyone's probably got an account there as well. But SHEP is the
Good
big
luck trying to
kahuna.
start a
If
pallet
you were
company.
trying to start a pallet company
Yeah.
and trying to become as efficient as SHEP, you would have to get everyone in that supply chain process to sign up to Bryce and
Switch
Alec's
over.
pallet.
Yeah.
So then we could move pallets, we could track pallets through the supply chain.
Yeah. It's
Like that
unbelievable.
network effect.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Network effect, switching cost, cornered position. Oh, no, not cornered position. There's plenty in there.
So those are 3 examples that I wanted to bring to the table to, I guess, give people a sense of the list that I'm trying to build. And I want to make this a public list, publish it on our website. I was thinking we could even do like a bracket tournament for the best moat.
Okay.
But I think, like these are the companies that get me excited. Companies that have these sustainable competitive advantages. So hit us up at equitymates.com/contact and let us know a company that you think should be on this list, and I'll compile them and then share them with the community. And as I was talking about this segment, you were laughing because you were saying that you have a company that you want to add to the list as well.
Yeah, slightly controversial company.
Controversial's good.
Altria Group.
Oh, tobacco?
Yeah, so they own Philip Morris.
Yeah.
As well as US Smokeless Tobacco Co., John Middleton, Helix Innovations, and another company, NJOY. Firstly, their website is homepage, Moving Beyond Smoking. That's
Yep.
their homepage.
Yeah. Do they own...
From tobacco company to tobacco harm reduction company. That's what they're positioning themselves as, i.e. vapes, baby.
Well, not just vapes.
Plenty of other things, but I don't want to...
Well,
we can go into this.
Didn't Philip Morris bought Zyn?
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, the reason that I think this has a moat, A, scale, biggest tobacco company in the world, but B, switching costs. You're not going to convince your customers to stop smoking. Nicotine is addictive. Sure, they can go to their competitors. You can go to other tobacco companies, but the fact that these guys are the biggest, they have their fingers in many tobacco nicotine related products.
Yeah.
And I think,
I think
sheer scale.
I think that first power that we started with, the scale economies, where like their unit cost to make tobacco compared to what they sell it for would be crazy.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. I mean, there's a reason that tobacco companies have been the best investments like for the last 100 years, but even in the past like 30 years since the tobacco lawsuits and, everyone really woke up to the dangers of smoking, they've been incredible investments. And one of my big takeaways when I was in Turkey recently was just how prevalent smoking is. Like in
Globally.
Southeast Asia, everyone's still smoking.
Yeah.
In Turkey, it was nuts how many people were smoking. You go to Europe, smoking's still pretty prevalent. The States, still pretty prevalent. Vaping only really took off in Australia and the UK. Like everyone's still smoking darts.
Yeah.
So,
crazy.
Like Altria will probably be around in 10 or 20 years
Definitely.
until it gets banned, and governments make too much money from the tax to ban it. So
Definitely. Yeah, it's addictive product.
all
But
right,
anyway,
put it on the list.
Put it on the list. Now, if you have a stock that you want to submit to our moat list,
Yeah.
head to equitymates.com/contact. Just put it in the general comments along with your name. We'll add it in. We'll make sure we mention it on the show as we progress, or hit us up in our DMs on our Instagram page, and we would love to hear from you.
Equity Mates.
I will say this about investing. Everything you do learn is cumulative. What I learned at 20 is useful